some residential flooding issues that we have currently in the city. We have our city's engineering department, also our water department. I'm also happy to be joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Madrook, and also Councilor Allen. And we're going to allow you guys to take it away and discuss with us how we are going to look to resolve these issues in the city.
Good morning. I'm Mary Robison, City Engineer, and this is John Kivlahan, Division Engineer of Design and Construction. We have a capital improvement project underway currently on Colebrook. It's quite a lengthy design process. Involves site investigation, soil sampling, survey, and most importantly, getting a joint permit from DEC and the Army Corps, which takes a bit of time. CNS is our consultant on the job. We plan to dredge work in conjunction with the county, not the county, the town of Onondaga, and remove the sediment from the town line, or 150 feet south of the city town line, which the county will participate and reimburse us for those costs within the town. And we'll remove the sediment from that line all the way up to culvert just south of Seneca Turnpike.
Can you identify the exact location where you'd be starting at?
Edna Road.
Edna?
Well, except it would go down to the city line, and then 150 feet south of the city line would be the town's portion.
Right where the Kmart. Right there.
Yep. So then we would go north up to where Colebrook enters a culvert, which is just south of Seneca Turnpike. So it's over 6,000 linear feet of creek sediment removal. And we'll also be doing some improvement to the creek walls to try and make improvements and improve flood capacity, sediment removal, vegetation removal. There's a bunch of couple large stumps and trees that need to be removed. We will be restricted on tree removal due to the Indiana bats, most likely. DEC usually only allows us to remove trees from November 1st to April 1st. And there also may be some restrictions on when we can remove the sediment due to fish spawning in the creek. So, unfortunately, it is a lengthy design process and permit approval process with DEC and Army Corps. Best case scenario, we could start late fall.
This year.
This year. That would be a really best case, and with quick turnarounds on permit approvals. Otherwise, it will be next year. We would remove the trees when we, during our permitted time, November to April, and then begin sediment removal. I don't know when the spawning restriction.
I'd have to check. It's, I think it's around April, May time, I think, is when the spawning restriction comes in, but we can check on that.
And for those of us that's not, we don't do this every day, what does that mean, spawning? What's that?
It's just when I guess there's trout in that stream, so you can't remove the sediment when they are in the stream.
Okay, gotcha.
You want to discuss? Yes. So, John knows Corey, myself, and Bob Doherty had met last week right? It was last week, John?
Last week, yeah, we walked the area.
Yeah, we did. So and this has been an issue. I mean, everyone that is quite familiar with where that spot is has been a big issue between us going back and forth with the town and trying to figure out what to do. I guess this, first of all, this is gonna really make the neighbors out there quite happy, because the flooding, especially folks like Bob Doherty and folks around Edna, it's gonna make a difference. And I guess my question is, how much, once this commence, how much disturbance will this do to the neighbors? In terms of work and traffic, and what would that look like?
I mean, depending on the right-of-way and access, I mean, they are going to see construction activity. Whatever option the contractor decides to remove sediment from, he may decide to vac it or bring in small equipment. So you're going to see small backhoes, most likely trucks, tree clearing equipment, chainsaws, possibly some larger trucks with man lifts to get up there. So they're going to see construction activity, like probably smaller construction vehicles rather than larger ones, just because of the available right-of-way, the proximity of houses, ground conditions. You don't want to bring heavy equipment in there because they're just going to track up people's lawns. But they're going to see equipment go through there. There's going to be some restorations on their lawns. Probably some landscaping may have to get removed depending on how close it is to the creek.
We'll replace that?
Yes. I mean, if anything we damage, we would replace based on our right-of-way and our access rights. There is a small pathway down through that corridor, which is city right-of-way, that can be used for construction equipment.
But they'll get notice about that.
Yeah.
Good.
So with notification, I take the TNT would be part of that, right?
Yeah, we'd probably do, before the construction starts, having, a meeting, just get public information meeting, just let the public know what's going to happen. We'll have to competitively bid this, whoever the contractor is then before construction would start, then have another meeting just to say, notice construction is going to start. And basically on the contractor schedule, once we have a schedule, we could give more information as to where it's going to start first.
Any time frame of like construction hours? What do you guys usually operate?
Construction hours, since it's residential, we're cognizant of residential. Usually they start up machinery 7 o'clock, and they usually finish around 4 o'clock, usually 10-hour days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does that notification or communication look like, John? Is it like what I see with DPW with door hangers and all of that? Or what is it like? Because people are gonna be even if you do that TNT meeting, people are gonna be like, what's going on?
Yeah, not everybody attends TNT meetings.
Right.
We could do mailers to residents in that area. We try to work with the administration, do a press release, try to get it out on the TV, do some kind of website. We try different mechanisms to get it out to the public because not everybody turns up to the TNT meetings. So we're always going to get somebody who's not aware of it, who's not going to be happy with us. But once construction starts, if we've got the message out and people start to see construction equipment, then I think they usually realize what's going on.
Would it be possible to maybe, because I know it's effective, along maybe Salina, talk with a couple of neighbors to put maybe a couple of lawn signs, say construction is happening, maybe 5 or so right there along Salina, to just put it out, because every time there's construction, the phone is blowing up, what's going on? Even if after we've been TNT, some city website and stuff like that, just to be able to tell people who are driving by to know what's happening, the date that,
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't expect residents to put up a construction sign. I mean, we can get variable message boards that you see on construction sites.
Correct. That's
just
good.
say,
That's good.
work activity happening. But again, since it's a smaller, we're not on any main streets, we're all on side streets. It's really a residential neighborhood. The creek comes through, we could put up some variable message boards. They're not cheap. They're expensive, but at the start of the project, we put some up in advance just to say, hey, this is what's happening.
Which bring me to the next question. What would be the total cost, projected cost for this, Mary? Do we know?
Our budget for this project's $800,000,
800,000.
Any matching funds, or is this out of our capital?
all city. We have requested some congressionally directed spending dollars to replace 3 culverts on Edna, Parrish, and Oakley. We think those culverts really need to be upsized, larger. We requested another 1.5 million, so that's going through the process for approval. I don't know if we're going to get the funding or not, but if we get that funding, we would be replacing those culverts.
Mary, is this our present capital budget? Are we bonding for this, or how are we doing?
I've already come to you, so it's
Okay, so it's already come
Yep.
through us? Okay.
yeah. And we would I'll be coming to you with MOU with the county to, for them to reimburse us for the 150 feet that we dredge in the county.
The coming fiscal year?
Not the county, the money is coming from the county, but it's from the town.
From the town of Onondaga?
Yeah.
Okay,
Town of Onondaga got some funding from the county,
okay.
and then the town will reimburse us for the expense in the town.
So the money's from last year's, the year's fiscal budget, the one we're working on right now, as opposed to the future fiscal year?
Actually, it was originally in the 23-24 CIP, but we wanted to start work, so we came to you in the spring,
Okay.
earlier this spring, I think around March,
I believe it was.
Yes,
March, April timeframe.
I think it was March, yeah.
So the primary cause of the flooding in that area is pretty much from the over vegetation, or like what's the primary cause of or one of the primary causes, I should say?
I would say, yeah, there's a lot of sediment, there's a lot of vegetation. I do think the development in Green Hills, the extra pipes that were installed to collect that parking lot behind the plaza there, I think that's contributed. And we're trying to work with the town to try and get that resolved, because, I think it is having an adverse impact on us.
So does
go on
this,
their property, Green Hills' property for this or not? No?
What did you say?
I said, do we go on Green Hills' property for this or not?
It's not Green Hills property per se, it's the development behind Green Hills.
Okay.
The old Kmart. There's a parking lot that's no longer in use. The town or the developer several years ago went in and put in a diversion channel. And that, we believe, could possibly be causing some of the adverse effect. Bob Doherty did mention that prior to that going in, he didn't have any flooding issues in the neighborhood. And he said since that went in that they've experienced more problems. But we can't say for a fact that that's caused it, but the residents seem to think it has.
so will this project, it mitigates the problem that's happening right now, but does it prevent this from happening like in years to come?
That's what we're hoping to alleviate by working in conjunction with the town, doing a hydraulic study to make sure that what we do implement does not create any adverse effect for anybody else further downstream. But by removing sediment from the channel, restoring it to the depth that it was originally constructed at, and removing vegetation, we hope to alleviate the conditions and improve.
But is it something that we'll have to go back to, say, like, every year and kind of do some maintenance to it, or it's like a one-time thing?
In reality, there should be regular maintenance of the creek. I mean, it's always going to collect sediment. Again, we should identify where the heavy areas of sedimentation are and keep an eye on those and do regular maintenance on them. Usually builds up with bends, areas like that where sediment can trap. So something we should do more regular. I mean, it hasn't been cleaned out for years, so.
Is that company that owns that development of the former Kmart, are they still a viable company? Do we know anything about them? I mean, is there any chance of us recouping some of this money, maybe, if that's in fact what happened?
Well, that's kind of what we're working with the town on.
Town of Onondaga?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
it'd be
they're
like a
still
joint,
the
maybe?
viable company, but they haven't really been responsive to the town.
Okay, so it'd be like a joint action by the city and the town of
I don't
Onondaga,
know.
maybe? Okay.
We're working on it.
So in the case of the flooding side, is there anything that we do residential-wise that they have to just go through their insurances to get, how do they resolve the matter? Do they try to come after the city to say, hey, this is being caused by the brook and, I'm getting flooding in my house? Like, have they ever experienced anything like that, or?
I'm not really sure.
It's a legal question as to
Yeah.
whose fault it is, and
Yeah, like,
buy a property next to water, you need to know you're next to water.
I'm just, yeah, absolutely,
that's,
absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that's a legal question.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're not in the legal profession.
You could step up to the mic, please.
I'm just saying, it's not a mapped flood zone, like a FEMA flood zone there, so people aren't required to have flood insurance, but they can at their own option to have
So
flood
they're
insurance.
not required to have it.
Yeah, it's not a map zone.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's so weird. The places that actually have flooding don't require it, but the neighborhoods that don't have flooding require it.
Yeah.
That's just so odd, but neither here nor there, but it's interesting.
So if it goes up to Seneca Turnpike, what does that do to the rest as the water is coming through? What does that do to the rest of the neighbors? You don't see any problem in terms of pushing the problem forward at all? Would that solve? Everybody should be okay, right?
Once it gets to Seneca Turnpike, then it outfalls into Onondaga Creek.
Okay, so we should be all right?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's...
Any other questions?
Out of Comstock Commons, how is that going?
We have a work order with Barton and LaJudas, so they've started design. They took soil samples last week, and I believe they're going to start their surveying sometime next week.
Okay. Because I remember about a year or two ago, we were having a conversation as to Xavier Wood, coming from Xavier Wood to where the Commons is, that there was an issue that really contributed to that. How have we been able to address that?
Well, that was
You remember?
probably when Xavier Woods was being constructed. There probably was some additional sediment that contributed to the pond, but that wasn't the only source of the sediment. There's, natural sediment that flows with rain. Anytime you see a major rainstorm, you look at any creek and it's all muddy water. So, we try and impose all these soil erosion and sediment control measures, and it's, constant maintenance. You can't prevent it all, and it's tough watching all these, it's hard, we don't have enough staff to inspect all these projects 100% of the time to make sure they're doing what they're doing. So you're going to have sediment.
What's the cost of that as well, Mary?
Cost of what?
The cost of the Outer Comstock, that project?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
We're just doing the engineering. Then we'll put the project out to bid.
All right. And then one last question. Did you say this was going to be RFP'd for the Valley area thing? Or are we
Be a
doing it
competitive bid
Okay.
for the construction, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Same thing with Comstock Commons.
Okay,
Be competitively bid for construction.
perfect. Any other questions? All set. Well, thank you. This concludes our meeting here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Absolutely.
Short and sweet.